What's going on, everyone? I hope you all had a great weekend, and happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. But we are set for a very exciting week in the markets. Not only do we have a FOMC interest rate decision where Jerome Powell's coming back and making a decision on whether to keep interest rates the same or to start cutting them, but we are also heading into a pretty interesting time of the year for the market, and this is also happening as NVDA, of all stocks, is set to have a pretty big AI conference this week. On top of that, there are more exciting earnings coming back into the mix, and the market is still right at all-time highs. But as you can see by the heat map, we are starting to see some of these big bad tech stocks start to actually pull back a little bit. So we're set for an exciting week. We have a lot of great plays and information for everyone in tonight's video, so you better stick with us all the way until the end. But Tom, let's get right into it.
Yeah, Mike, looking at last week, the stock market was actually pretty rough. Whenever we go back and look, on Monday, we opened up like right around the same area we closed at on Friday. So it was really choppy, to say the least. We had some nice uptrends to begin the week, but you can see here at the end of the week, SPY started rejecting off that all-time high and coming down pretty hard. Now, there's a huge double bottom in the short term around the 508.50 mark. So I'm definitely going to have that on watch this week with all these big events going on. And Mike, just looking at this support and looking at the way we closed Friday, it's not the best close. So what are we looking at on the seasonality? Because I heard it's not the best.
Yeah, it certainly isn't. So as we can see on the chart right here, the orange line basically shows what the stock market does on average in the fourth year of the presidential cycle. And the blue line shows what the stock market has been doing this year. Most of the time, the month of March isn't the best for the market in these situations, but it really hasn't been too bad in 2024. However, like you pointed out, Tom, we actually are starting to see the stock market slow down a little bit. It's not that the stock market is crashing and burning by any means, but the giant uptrend that we've seen just nonstop from like the past couple of months is starting to slow down a little bit, and that can't really be denied. So going into, these last couple weeks of March and like even the beginning of April, just watch out. The market is normally weak around this time, so just keep that in mind going forward.
Yeah, exactly. It's never good to see the seasonality going against you as a trader, right? And whenever we've seen these great uptrends, they've been great, but I think we've actually been starting to see a little bit of, I would say, confliction off of our recent bullish uptrend. Even NVIDIA, one of the hottest tech stocks out there, has been really consolidating the past couple weeks. I know that some stocks out there are still kind of hot, but even Meta, another big tech stock, a lot of consolidation. Apple, I know that they've been falling and they've been pretty weak lately as well. Tons of consolidation, more of to the downside even with Apple. So we're seeing a lot of the big players out there and those stocks that have the biggest weightings in the market starting to actually have that negative connotation, that negative price action. So going into this week, Mike, the heat map was terrible, on Friday, and I'm going to look for a little bit more continuation to the downside, but that SPY support will be on watch, though, because if we end up bouncing off of that, then, obviously don't just run into puts right away. I'm definitely going to make that area break first.
Yeah, and a lot will play on this week's FOMC report as well. The man's coming back, Jerome Powell, and this event is one of the most important events that he has throughout the whole year, right? These FOMC reports happen multiple times throughout the year, but they're always super important, and basically there's like a 98% chance that Jerome Powell is just going to keep interest rates exactly where they are, which I think is a smart move. I think it's way too early to cut, but still, depending on what Powell says, after, within the press conference and everything with this event, will have a big impact. So, that's very important to keep in mind. And the main show will be on Wednesday at 2 p.m. and then 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
It really will, Mike. And Jerome Powell, like you said, he's the man, the myth, the legend, right? He's going to be speaking this week. He just testified to Congress a couple weeks ago, so he'll be back at it. And looking at the FedWatch tool, there's a 98% chance that they're going to keep rates paused at this meeting. Even the next meeting is almost priced in for a pause. But going out to June, you can see that they have a 55% chance of a cut right now. We're really going to be watching to see if that number starts to shift more towards a pause. So I'm really going to be watching the June probabilities. I think everybody's really watching those. We already are pretty much assured that there's going to be a pause at the May meeting. So keep your eyes on June. Let's see what happens with the economic data. And this could really shift the market here, especially with SPY kind of having trouble at the all-time high and a lot of these tech stocks starting to fall. That's not the combination you want to see.
True that, and a lot of people are still looking at NVIDIA as this stock has been the star of the show over the past year, and basically it is up quite a bit still, and it has been holding up in a very strong way, but you can't deny that the uptrend has certainly been slowing over like the past week or so. So that is interesting, and it's going to be worth watching very closely because what NVIDIA does has a giant impact on the market to the upside and the downside, and NVIDIA will be especially important to watch this week as they have a pretty big AI conference scheduled. So Tom, tell us more about this.
Yeah, it's huge. It's going to be a big AI conference, and they're expected to talk a lot about their chips and just the AI breakthroughs that NVIDIA is going to be getting done, and I cannot wait to see what they're going to be sharing. Like, whenever I scroll through here, there's going to be panels going on different days of the week, like AI-driven drug discovery panels, guys. Like, that's pretty insane, right? And we'll see just a whole bunch of different things by them. Now, I don't want to get too technical, right, with what specific GPUs they might talk about and stuff like that, but definitely do not miss this event. It's going to be huge for NVIDIA. At the same time, though, and I know a lot of people are bullish on this, Mike, just because there's a big event going on doesn't necessarily mean to just run into calls right away. We've seen Tesla and other companies kind of fail at some of these events, although I will say NVIDIA is the big dog out there. They're like the one exception lately.
Yeah, and just like we remember over the past couple of years, like you mentioned with Tesla, like when Tesla was all the hype back in 2020 and 2021, it had like big events like Battery Day and even other ones where there's a lot of hype and just like good information associated with it, but sometimes it's not as like, it's not enough to truly wow investors and get that stock blasting higher. But each event is different. All I'm going to say is while AI is, super hot right now, and while they might present a bunch of great information at the conference, it is worth noting that it's not always about the information, but sometimes it matters more about the hype and sentiment associated with it at the time. So still with NVIDIA, it's all a game of momentum in the short term. When it's blasting to the upside, obviously the stock's going up, and that encourages more and more people to buy into it, which makes it go up even more. But at the same time, when it starts to fall, the same people who were so happy to buy it when it was blasting higher are also very quick to jump ship and say, oh no, this stock lost its momentum. So keep a close eye on it in the short term. It is one of the most important stocks to watch in the entire market. But Tom, we also have some other exciting news as earnings season is starting to slowly get back into things. And we can see on the schedule, we have a couple big stocks reporting this week.
Yeah, we actually do. On Wednesday, I noticed we have Micron, Chewy, and After Hours, KBH, Five Below, so quite a bit there. On Thursday, we have Nike, Lulu, FedEx. Like, those are three huge companies there on Thursday. They might not be the best stocks for options, or they might not have those big 10% moves necessarily, but on earnings, sometimes they definitely can get pretty crazy. So we have quite a bit on the calendar this week, Mike, even like XPEV Tuesday before open, one of those China EV companies. So there's going to be a lot to watch here. I really like PDD Wednesday and Micron. I think those two will be pretty fun.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, I love Chewy, and I really like the price they're at for the long term, but I will say, like, for, like, short-term moves, I'm especially looking at Micron just because it is in the chip industry, you can say, and we all know how crazy these stocks have been moving over the past year, so I am going to be watching MU pretty closely, and again, it's all a game of momentum like it is with all of these chip stocks in the short term. The main thing for the economic schedule for the week is just the FOMC event on Wednesday. Besides that, there's nothing too crazy going on. So with that being said, let's jump right into some setups and predictions for tomorrow. One stock I'm watching very closely right now is Coinbase. There's been this one's been blasting to the upside over the past couple months, but again, the trend is slowing down a little bit. And what we can see with Coinbase is like when you go to like a daily chart or even a weekly chart, throughout history, this one would go on like giant runs for a couple weeks, and then it would just pull back a decent amount and do nothing. And this happens over and over and over again throughout this stock's history, especially over like the past couple years. And that's what I'm starting to see in the short term right now. It has been blasting higher for however many weeks now, and it's starting to calm down and just pull back. What's also interesting is that even the price of Bitcoin isn't, tanking by any means, but it is just slowing down just a little bit in the short term, which will make it a little bit harder for Coinbase to move to the upside and just continue its euphoric rise higher. So I am watching Coinbase to the downside right now. I would love to see it pull back to that $200 area.
That would be pretty awesome, a nice retest of 200. I could see it happening over the next couple weeks, especially if there's more selling pressure just across the market and just across, crypto and Coinbase in general. But with my first play, Mike, I got to go with Tesla again. I've called this one out to the downside for like 3 or 4 videos in a row, and I got to go with it again. I know on Friday it didn't necessarily like tank down in a major way, but that price action from open to like midday was pretty good to the downside. Now it did come back at close. I believe it was ended up slightly green on the day, but looking at the double bottom in the short term, I'm definitely watching this $160 to $160.50 level. It is huge, guys, and we can go over to the book map from Friday. There was like 450,000 shares stacked up at 160 around the end of the day. That is a huge level. They've been stacked there for a while too, so I'm really watching that as support. If we break under there, I'll look for more bearishness. That's one of the worst daily charts that I've seen on Tesla in a while, Mike. Like, to see that, you don't necessarily attribute these types of downside moves to Tesla. It was the powerhouse a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, and Tom, you've been sniping this one day after day to the downside. So awesome job there. I definitely have to give you a huge shout out because you definitely deserve it. And for those of you who have not already somehow used Bookmap, check it out at least for a month, Global or Global Plus. You get to see exactly where the buyers and sellers are sitting at for any stock. Bookmap has tons of add-ons too. So what you see in the videos, you could do basically anything you want with Bookmap. It's awesome. And the cherry on top is that you will save if you use our link. We do have a deal with Bookmap where StockedUp viewers can save, but you do have to use that first link in the description and the comments down below. Again, Bookmap is one of those platforms where you have to try it out at least for a month. It's that awesome. So check it out. But with my next play, I'm looking at ticker symbol LEN to the downside. They fumbled down pretty bad, or they tumbled down, I should say, pretty bad on earnings last week. And they had a decent bounce on Friday, but I think this one is setting up for a great earnings continuation play to the downside. I think this one can definitely get back down to like that $145 area in the short term, especially if the market sentiment stays the way it has been over the past week. So I would love to play this one to the downside, and as long as it stays below that like $159 to $160 area, I think the setup is pretty good.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit too. I could see an earnings continuation going on also, and it just we're seeing so much selling pressure short term. I would not be surprised if it also continued down with that. And with my next play, I'm looking at SQQQ to the upside. This has been on fire the past few days. UVXY has actually been pretty good too, but it's been more choppy, right? SQQQ will mainly inverse the NASDAQ more, which is comprised of more tech stocks. And that's what we're starting to see kind of tumbled off a little bit. So I'm going to keep watching SQQQ this week. If I see a break above like 1145 to 1150 come Monday, then I will look at more calls. And the main thing is just really seeing that downside pressure out of the tech stocks. Like if NVIDIA starts killing it on their AI conference and they're up 5%, don't trade SQQQ, right? That's not going to be a good idea.
Yeah, that's like trying to stop a freight train that's just hauling towards you. It's not a good idea. But with that being said, let's jump right into the momentum plays for the day. And with the first one, we have Microsoft to the downside.
That was a terrible move on Friday, and they're sitting right around recent support around 412, excuse me. So if they break under 412, then go ahead and play some puts.
All right, with the next one, we have TLT also to the downside, which will be a interesting one given the FOMC interest rate decision this week.
Yeah, and it tanked off a little bit last week. So if it breaks under 92.80, then I up puts there.
All right, and then with the last one, we have UVXY for both directions.
Yeah, UVXY is nuts, kind of like SQQQ. If it breaks above 760, then go ahead and eye up calls. At the same time, if it ends up falling under 690, then maybe eye up some puts.
There we go. So we have the downside level there, and we also have the upside level for UVXY. But don't forget about the downside level with TLT, and then the downside level with Microsoft. These three stocks are on watch only if they break through the levels Tom listed. We are looking for powerful breaks through those levels, and then continuations in that direction. If these stocks do not break the levels that are listed, then they are not worth trading. We want to see momentum and strong, powerful movement with these stocks, but we can't forget about the $430,000 big money trade from Friday, which is with ticker symbol SLCA. So the big money dumped just under $500,000 into the SLCA 12 strike call options that expire on April 19th of 2024. This stock has been trending in a great way over the past couple of weeks. These call options are in the money. It's a relatively shorter to expiration trade right here. And one thing that I thought was very interesting with this one is, Tom, if you go to like a max weekly chart or just like a further out view, you can see that when this one does uptrend, it normally uptrends in a pretty big way. Two trends that really stood out to me were the trend, you could say, yeah, like January of 2021, and then you could even say like February of 2022. That was also a pretty monstrous uptrend, and we'll see what happens here, but I like to see this short-term expiration with call options that are already in the money. You would think the big money's pretty bullish here, and I'm curious to see how this one does, and I think it's a pretty good risk to reward.
It really is, and I know a lot of people are going to have that first initial thought of like, well, it's already up a lot in the short term, right? Am I going to miss it? And that's the thing. Like, whenever we go back and we look at those big uptrends that this stock has had, I would say no. You know, if this is the beginning of a true uptrend, like, man, this stock could end up lasting off pretty well. So I like the play quite a bit, Mike. I like the strike, too, being in the money a little bit at 12. You know, they're slightly safer. And that's kind of what you want whenever the stock's already up this much. But, yeah, let's go. It's a pretty fun play. And I like the overall pattern on the chart on this too. Like, this is a ton of bullish momentum in the short term, and even that volume picked up a ton on Friday.
Yeah, and then how about the big money play from with ticker symbol CART? Basically, we called this one out on February 29th, and it has just still been going higher and higher each day. At this point, it's a little bit too late to enter because, you know, the play's already moved to the upside by so much. But again, you know, that was another pretty similar situation where the big money might, you know, some people might have said that they got in late, but, you know, during those true uptrends, like, the stock just keeps on going.
Yeah, exactly. I love this one. I'm actually circling on the chart, like right where they entered on this so that you guys can see that, because it ended up popping up pretty well. Like, I think on Friday, these options were up like 65% or something. And imagine being up 65% when you put $5 million in a play.
Not too bad, Tom, especially for that short term of a trade. So great stuff there. We are set for a pretty exciting week, though. We have an FOMC interest rate decision. The market's right at all-time highs. NVDA has a pretty big AI conference. Earnings season is coming back, so I think we're set for a pretty exciting week. If you guys are new to the channel, consider demolishing that subscribe button down below. If you do that, you will get our videos recommended to you more often. In every single video, we go over top setups and predictions, important charts you won't find otherwise anywhere else. We go over the top earnings, we go over big money trades, and we post brand new videos all the time. So consider joining the StockedUp crew. We're set for a pretty exciting week. And Tom, do you have any final thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, it's going to be a big week. I'm going to have my eyes on the FOMC meeting like a hawk. I will actually have it live on the StockedUp Live YouTube channel. If you guys have not checked that out, check it out. Give me a sub if you want. But yeah, let's go, Mike. It's going to be a big week, and that data could really shift things. I think that looking at the FedWatch tool and looking at those percentages is going to be a big market-changing thing that's going to happen this week.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really great week with a lot of good opportunities in both directions. So I hope you guys are as excited as we are. But I also want to give a giant shout out to today's Stocked Up Discord member of the day, which is Slick Shacky. And he had a great day on Friday. He's been a member of the chat for about a month now. So keep up all the great work. And we'd love to see more posts like this one. But everyone, let's make this week a great one. Keep those stop losses in place, follow the money as usual, and let's crush it. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.